The Great Western Railway engine shed in Aberystwyth was built in 1938 on the foundations of an earlier 1891 Cambrian Railways shed. With the end of BR mainline steam in 1968, it was converted for use by the last working BR-operated steam locomotives on the narrow-gauge Vale of Rheidol Railway. The railway continued using it right up until 2019, when following construction of a new dedicated workshop and carriage sheds, it was refurbished as a museum and exhibition space, opening in 2024. This allows some of the line's rare collection of historic rolling stock to go onto public display for the first time. With a rotating roster of exhibits, why not join me for a tour of what was on display over the August bank holiday weekend in 2024. The splendid Fire Queen is one of the oldest surviving narrow-gauge locomotives in the world, being built by A. Horlock and Company for the 4-foot gauge Padarn Railway in 1848. Withdrawn in 1886, it was stored out of sight at Gilfach Ddu near Llanberis until 1969, when it was bought and presented on loan to the National Trust. Resident for many years at Penrhyn Castle Museum, it is now at Aberystwyth, pending completion of a permanent home back at Gilfach Ddu. The Padarn Railway's Directors' Saloon was built by Gloucester Carriage and Wagon Works in 1896. It seats up to 8 people in opulence, with padded swivel chairs, stained glass windows and upholstered walls. On paydays, this saloon was attached to a normal train with an armed guard, in order to convey the quarry workers' pay. Sabero No. 1 is an 060 tank engine built by Courier in 1895 for the Huleras de Sabero coal mine in Spain. This 600mm gauge line ran for 6 kilometres between Soturs and Sabero and was the second most important mining system in the country. 8 locos from this system was bought by Peter Rampton in the 1960s, and it formed the start of his large collection and has been in storage since 1969. Also from the Sabero system is this 4-wheel match-ported Coche del Presidente, the President's coach, which was a gift from the mine in return for the purchase of 8 locos. This Model T Ford was built at Statfold Barn in 2008. It's a replica of an original vehicle made from parts of 2 Ford Model T cars as an inspection car for the Sandy River and Rangeley Lake system in Maine, USA in 1925. The original is currently being restored in the US, whilst this replica includes engines and parts from an original 1927 Model T Ford. It also includes a built-in turntable, which lifts the car off the track and allows it to be rotated. Earl of Barkley is the last remaining of the Great Western Duke class, having been built at Swindon in 1938, using the frames of a Bulldog class loco and the boiler and cab of a Duke class loco. On loan from the Blue Bar Railway, where it is in the queue awaiting overhaul, it is a particularly appropriate visitor to the museum, as it was stabled in this very building in the 1950s, right up until its withdrawal in 1960. Pendyffryn is an 040 vertical boiler tank built by de Wintons of Carnarvon in 1894 for the Penir Orsedd slate quarry. Stored out of use in 1949, it was bought for preservation in 1965 and restored at the Brecon Mountain Railway, completed in 2012 with a new boiler, water tank and coal bunker. This Dick Kerr petrol-electric loco was built in 1918 for the War Department, designed to be run as a part of a pair back-to-back with a single driver. The cab is entered from the rear to offer more protection from shelling and shrapnel. Whilst their slow gearing and high centre of gravity meant they rarely saw use on the front line, they were often used as mobile generators for mobile workshops or sawmills. This is one of only 2 of the 100 built still in existence. This Isle of Man railway coach, number F68, was originally built by the Metropolitan in 1873 and 74 as 2 4-wheel carriages. They were rebuilt into a single bogie coach in 1909. Bought for preservation in the 1970s and restored over 4 decades, it has been regauged from 3 foot to 2 foot and has not been on public display since restoration. The Rheidol tanks need little introduction in Aberystwyth, and number 1213 is awaiting overhaul, whilst numbers 7 and 8 are in service alongside the Garrett Drakensberg. Also known as number 9 Prince of Wales, the loco was built in 1924, ostensibly as a rebuild of the earlier Davies and Metcalfe of 1902, although the modern consensus is that it was in fact built entirely new. At over 8 feet, these powerful locos are amongst the widest ever built for a 2-foot gauge. This is the loco I had on my first ever visit to the railway back in 2006, and you can see the videos from that visit also on the channel. This 080 Brigade Lock tank was built in 1916 for Maffei for the German army. One of 175 built by Maffei, there were over 2,500 built to the same basic design. They're designed to go around tight curves with unique Klein-Lindner hollow axles, which allow the wheels to articulate within the rigid frames. This Brigade Lock Wasserwagen, or tender, was built by Henschels in 1917. It allows the range of the locos to increase from 1 to 2 hours before refilling to 8 to 10 hours. It also features independent handbrakes on both bogies, with seats for brakesmen. Graf Schwerin-Löwitz is an 062 tank built by Arne Young in 1908 for the Mecklenburg-Pommersche Schmalspurbahn in eastern Germany. Once boasting over 250 kilometres of track, the system closed in sections, with the final stretch closing in 1969. This loco, number 993353, was purchased by Tony Hills, initially housed at the Llanberis Lake Railway. It was then restored and became a mainstay performer on the Brecon Mountain Railway, and this was the loco I had when I visited in 2008. Sadly underpowered for the steeply graded Torpantal extension, and now out of boiler ticket, the loco has been transferred to the Vale of Rheidol for display. The Vale of Rheidol cattle van is one of two built by the Great Western at Swindon Works in 1923. It was built to the 1903 Pickering design for the Welsh Poland Llanfair Railway, and was eventually re-gauged for use on that line in 1937. In 1956 it moved to the Festiniog, where it was modified again for use as a bicycle wagon, before it returned to the Rheidol in 2014 and has now been restored to original condition. This 7¼ inch gauge loco was built by the Falcon Engine and Car Works, and it's a scaled down version of a 2-foot gauge Lawley 440 loco built for the Beira Light Railway in Mozambique. When that line was regauged to 3'6" Cape gauge, they were then transferred to the South African Railways. 2 of these locos are now in the Rheidol collection, and it's intended for one or both of these to be displayed in the engine shed alongside this 7¼ inch gauge version at some point in the future, which is definitely something to look forward to. Redstone is an 040 vertical boiler tank, built between 1903 and 1905 for a private line at home of the quarry-owning Derbyshire family. Built by the quarry foreman, Mr. Redstone, it's based on the similar locos built by De Winton of Carnarvon. Although not inside the museum itself, the bank holiday also saw the first public UK display of this magnificent Gwalior Light Railway Pacific, built by Bagnalls in 1931. A network that once consisted of 3 different lines totalling over 250 miles, it's one of 8 such locos built by Bagnalls for the Gwalior system in India. Unique decorations on this loco include metal flames on the smokebox. This is one of 2 of these locos now resident on the Rheidol, and although not normally on public display, there is a chance one of them will wind up in the museum in the future. The Engine Shed Museum at the Vale of Rheidol in Aberystwyth is well worth a visit, with free entry if travelling on the train, or a low-priced separate entrance charge available. The line itself has transformed in recent years, now ranking amongst the best presented Welsh lines, and featuring hard-working locos in some of the best scenery of any narrow gauge railway in the country. If you're not able to visit yourself, do check out my series of videos of the railway. I hope you've enjoyed this look around the Engine Shed Museum. If so, please do consider liking and or subscribing, and thank you very much for watching.